Margaret Thompson, 72, received a diagnosis that turned her life into a nightmare. Blood pressure, 180 over 110, and Dr. Harrison insisted on immediate medications that promised to extend her life but stole everything that made it worth living. The side effects became so unbearable that Margaret sat in darkness before an open bottle of pills, questioning whether such an existence had any meaning at all. But her son Michael, a researcher from San Diego, brought something incredible, a Japanese study about bananas with cinnamon that sounded like quackery but changed everything in just 2 weeks. Just listen to how one simple morning ritual gave Margaret back not just her health, but her life itself, and why this story proves that sometimes hope can be as simple as a banana for breakfast. Margaret Thompson sat in the cardiologist's office, staring at the test results with trembling hands. The numbers seemed to pulse on the page, 180 over 110. Dr. Harrison leaned forward, his expression grave. "Margaret, I need you to understand how serious this is. Blood pressure at this level puts you at immediate risk for stroke or heart attack. At 72, we can't afford to wait." The words washed over her like cold water. Stroke, heart attack, fatal. She'd come in for a routine checkup, expecting nothing more than her usual clean bill of health. "I'm starting you on medications immediately," he continued, scribbling on his prescription pad. "A beta blocker and an ACE inhibitor. You'll take them every morning. We'll also need follow-up appointments every 2 weeks to monitor your response." Margaret nodded mechanically, but her mind was elsewhere. 72 years she'd lived, proud of her health. She'd worked as a librarian for 4 decades, raised 3 children, survived losing Tom 5 years ago. She'd never needed pills, never needed help. Now her life was becoming a schedule of medications and doctor visits. "There will be lifestyle changes too," Dr. Harrison added. "Strict low-sodium diet, limited activity until we stabilize these numbers. And Margaret, I strongly recommend you consider not living alone. With readings like these, you need someone nearby." Not living alone. The words hit harder than the diagnosis itself. Her house, her independence, her entire identity as a self-sufficient woman, all of it threatened. "I understand," she whispered, though she understood nothing except that everything was changing. The walk through the clinic felt surreal. Other patients sat peacefully in the waiting room, their lives undisturbed. Margaret clutched her purse and the papers that spelled out her new reality. Outside, October sunlight broke through the clouds, painting the parking lot in gold. It should have been beautiful, but Margaret couldn't feel anything except the weight pressing on her chest. She spotted a bench near the entrance and sank onto it, her legs suddenly unreliable. The tears came without warning, silent at first, then building into quiet sobs that shook her shoulders. She wasn't crying from pain or even fear, she was mourning. Mourning her independence, her identity as the strong one everyone relied on. Now she was Margaret Thompson, the patient, the one who needed monitoring, restrictions, help. She thought about Tom, how she'd nursed him through his final illness without breaking down. What would he think of her now, falling apart over blood pressure? But this felt different. This was her body betraying her, stealing her future one heartbeat at a time. A young mother hurried past with 2 children who stared at the crying old woman. Margaret wiped her eyes, feeling exposed and vulnerable in a way she'd never experienced. She sat on that bench for 20 minutes, watching maple leaves drift down around her, each one surrendering to gravity. Finally, she walked to her car and drove home through familiar streets that somehow looked different now, filtered through the lens of illness and fear. Sarah's car was already in the driveway. Her daughter had a key and often stopped by with 8-year-old Emma after school. Through the front window, Margaret could see them in the kitchen, baking cookies. So normal, so perfect. She didn't want to shatter that peace. But the door opened before she reached it. Sarah took one look at her mother's red, swollen eyes and understood immediately. "Mom? What did the doctor say?" Emma appeared behind her, flower on her nose, smiling. "Grandma, we're making chocolate chip cookies." Margaret tried to smile but couldn't. Sarah guided her inside, sending Emma to wash up. In the kitchen, surrounded by the smell of baking, Margaret told her daughter everything. The numbers, the medications, the restrictions, the possibility of giving up her independence. Sarah listened, tears filling her own eyes, then pulled Margaret into an embrace. "It's going to be okay, Mom. We'll figure this out together." But Margaret saw the truth in Sarah's worried expression. Nothing would be quite the same again. That night, Margaret lay awake, staring at the pill bottles on her nightstand. orange plastic containers with warnings she'd memorized but couldn't accept. Her mind raced through everything that could go wrong. The California trip to visit Michael next month. Now the thought of flying terrified her. What if something happened at 30,000 feet? Her spring garden, she'd already ordered seeds, planned the layout. Heirloom tomatoes, herbs, sunflowers. Simple pleasures that now felt dangerous. At 2:47 a.m., Margaret stood at her bedroom window, looking out at her moonlit backyard. The rose bushes she'd nurtured for decades stood like dark sentinels, and beyond them, the empty patch where she'd planned to plant. Everything felt fragile now. Her health, her independence, her future. All of it could vanish in a heartbeat. Margaret pressed her forehead against the cool glass and admitted what truly terrified her. Not the illness itself, but the transformation from someone who took care of others to someone who needed care. At 72, she'd thought she had more time to be herself, to live on her own terms. But time, like blood pressure, was beyond her control. The first week with the medications was worse than Margaret could have imagined. She started them that first night, swallowing the 2 small pills that were supposed to save her life. By the second day, the side effects began. A constant fog of fatigue settled over her, making even simple movements feel like wading through water. When she stood to make coffee, the room tilted sideways, forcing her to grip the counter until the dizziness passed. The nausea came next, a rolling, persistent queasiness that made food unbearable. She'd always enjoyed cooking for herself, but now even the smell of toast turned her stomach. By the third day, Margaret stopped going outside. Her morning walks, a ritual she'd maintained for years, became impossible. Just walking to the mailbox left her breathless and dizzy, terrified of collapsing on the sidewalk. Linda from book club called on day 4. "Margaret, we missed you. Are you coming next week?" Margaret made excuses, her voice weak. "I'm not feeling well. Maybe next time." But she knew there wouldn't be a next time, not when she could barely make it from bedroom to kitchen without needing to rest. Sarah called daily. "How are you feeling, Mom?" Margaret lied. "Just adjusting." But she wasn't adjusting. Each day she felt herself shrinking, disappearing into the fog of side effects. The house became a prison, her world reduced to a tired circuit between bed, couch, and table. The library coordinator called on day 5. "We haven't seen you this week." Another door closing. Margaret said she needed time off, maybe a month, but she wondered if she'd ever go back. How could she help patrons when she couldn't focus her own eyes? By day 6, Margaret stopped answering the phone altogether. She sat in her living room with curtains drawn, the television playing to no one, simply existing, waiting for the next wave of nausea or dizziness. Sarah came by that evening, finding her mother in the same spot, same clothes, staring at nothing. "Mom, have you eaten today?" Margaret couldn't remember. Sarah took her hand, noticing how much weight she'd lost in just a week. "The medications are making me sick," Margaret interrupted. "Everything makes me dizzy. I can't eat. I can't think. I'm fading away, Sarah." On the 7th evening, Sarah found the house completely dark. No lights, no television glow. Her heart racing, she fumbled with her key. "Mom!" She found Margaret in the kitchen, sitting at the table in darkness. The pill bottle sat open before her, tablets scattered beside it. Margaret wasn't moving, just staring at the pills with an expression of complete defeat. Sarah rushed forward, flipping on the light. The sudden brightness revealed her mother's tear-streaked face, eyes red and hollow. "I don't want to live like this," Margaret whispered. "I can't do it anymore." Sarah quickly counted the pills. None were missing beyond daily doses. Margaret hadn't taken them all. She'd just been sitting here contemplating. "What do you mean, Mom?" Margaret's hands trembled. "These pills are supposed to save my life, but they're taking it away. I feel like a shell. I can't walk to the driveway without getting dizzy. I can't read because my vision blurs. I can't eat. I can't sleep because I'm afraid I won't wake up." Her voice broke. "I've always been strong. I took care of your father, raised you alone after he passed. I've never needed anyone. And now I can't even take care of myself." "Mom, you're just falling apart." Margaret's voice rose, then dropped. "These pills are supposed to help, but I feel worse than before. At least then I could function. Now I just exist. Is this really living? Too weak to even turn on a light?" Sarah felt her own tears starting. She'd noticed the changes, the withdrawal, the weight loss, the lifeless voice. But seeing her mother this broken was devastating. I stood in front of my garden today, Margaret continued quietly, realized I'll never have the strength to plant tomatoes, never prune my roses again, never feel the satisfaction of growing something beautiful. She picked up a pill, rolling it between her fingers. This tiny thing is supposed to keep me alive. But what's the point if I can't do anything that makes life worth living? They sat in silence, rain pattering against windows. I can't even walk to the park anymore, Margaret finally said. Last Tuesday I tried, made it halfway down the block before I had to stop, shaking and dizzy. Mrs. Chen from 3 houses down had to help me home. I've never felt so humiliated. She looked at Sarah with desperate eyes. What kind of life is this? Taking pills that make you sick, afraid to leave your house, feeling like a burden to everyone? You're not a burden. I am. You're here every day because you're worried. You call constantly. Michael wants to fly out. Everyone's lives disrupted because I can't take care of myself. She stared at the bottle. What's the point of extending my life if this is all it's going to be? Sarah felt panic rising. Her mother had never talked like this before. So defeated, so hopeless. Maybe we should call Dr. Harrison. Try different medication. Margaret laughed bitterly. And if that doesn't work, try another. And another. Until I've tried them all and I'm still sick, still helpless, still nothing. The word hung heavy. Nothing. That's how Margaret saw herself now. Sarah stood, unable to sit still. She paced, realizing this was deeper than side effects her mother was giving up. I'm sorry, Margaret said quietly. You should go home to Emma. I'm not leaving you like this. Sarah stepped into the hallway and called Michael with shaking hands. Michael, I need you. It's Mom. She's not okay. What do you mean? Should I call 911? The medications are making her so sick, and she's... Michael, I think she's losing hope. I found her in the dark tonight, staring at her pills, talking about whether life is worth living like this. Silence then. I'll be on the first flight tomorrow. She's falling apart, and I don't know how to help her. Listen, Sarah, I've been doing research. There might be other options, natural approaches that could help without these side effects. Just keep her going until I get there. Don't let her lose hope completely. Sarah returned to the kitchen. That was Michael. He's coming tomorrow. You told him. Margaret's voice was hollow. Everyone's always worried about me now. I've become the family burden. We love you, Mom. We want you to get better. Better? How can I get better when the cure is worse than the disease? Sarah knelt, taking her mother's hands. Mom, please don't give up. Michael thinks there might be other options. Just hold on a little longer. Margaret looked at her daughter's desperate face and felt guilt wash over her. I'll try, she whispered, though she wasn't sure she meant it. Sarah stayed that night, too afraid to leave, and Margaret lay in bed staring at the ceiling, wondering if tomorrow would bring any hope at all. The truth was, the blood pressure wasn't destroying her. It was the helplessness, the loss of everything that made her feel like herself, and she didn't know how much longer she could bear it. 3 days later, Michael arrived carrying a briefcase in determination. Thank God you're here, Sarah whispered. Margaret sat in Tom's old armchair, looking smaller and frailer than Michael remembered. Mom, I think there might be another way. He pulled out research papers marked with colored tabs. Groundbreaking research from Osaka University about potassium and blood pressure. They discovered that eating bananas a specific way on an empty stomach with cinnamon creates a unique metabolic response. Bananas? Margaret was skeptical. Sounds like a fad. Peer-reviewed research, Michael said, showing graphs. Over 300 seniors studied. When you eat a banana on an empty stomach, potassium absorption increases 60 to 70%. Ceylon cinnamon enhances insulin sensitivity. Together, they help blood vessels relax and improve vascular tone. The graphs showed dramatic improvements in 2 weeks. 70% of elderly participants achieved normal blood pressure in 14 days, Michael continued, showing testimonials. This woman, Helen, 74, went from 185/112 to 138/86 in 2 weeks. Margaret felt something stir possibility. Why empty stomach? Maximum absorption. No competition from other foods. You wait 30 minutes after eating it before anything else. Safe with my medications? Natural foods, not supplements. Tell Dr. Harrison, monitor closely. If it works, he'll help you taper off gradually. Margaret processed this. 1 banana with cinnamon. So simple. What do you have to lose? Michael said gently. You're miserable now. This is safe, natural. 2-week trial. Margaret looked at her scientist son, who'd flown across the country for this. Okay, I'll try it. That evening, Michael explained. 6 a.m., 1 banana, ½ teaspoon Ceylon cinnamon. Eat slowly, wait 30 minutes, then normal routine. That night, a banana and cinnamon jar sat on Margaret's nightstand. She looked at them in darkness. Could these ordinary things really help? She thought about the testimonials, her unplanted garden, the canceled trip. For the first time in weeks, she imagined a future where she could do those things again. At 6 a.m., Michael knocked. Just making sure you use the right amount. Sure, Margaret opened her curtains for the first time in days. Dawn painted the sky pink and gold. She sprinkled the cinnamon ½ teaspoon, level. It looked almost ceremonial. Standing at her window, she took a bite. Fragrant, slightly sweet, warming. She chewed slowly. Just a banana, just cinnamon. But something shifted inside her. She was taking action, making a choice about her health. After finishing, she checked her pressure. 175/108. Barely different. The rational part said this was pointless. But another part, the part that had kept her going through everything, whispered differently. Day 1. 13 more to go. For the first time since Dr. Harrison's office, Margaret felt control over what happened next. The first week passed slowly. Each morning at 6 a.m., Margaret ate her banana with cinnamon, waited 30 minutes, then checked her pressure. Day 1, 175/108. No change. Day 2, 176/107. Worse. Day 3, 174/109. Margaret almost gave up. This was foolish. A banana couldn't fix what medications couldn't. Day 4 changed everything. She wrapped the cuff around her arm mechanically, expecting nothing. 165/102. She checked again. 164/103. It was dropping. Real, measurable change. Michael, it's working, she whispered into the phone, not caring it was barely 7 a.m. in California. By day 5, the fog lifted. She could think clearer, move easier. The constant nausea began fading. Day 6, 161/100. Day 7, 158/98. Sarah visited that evening and stopped in the doorway. Her mother was cooking, actually cooking. Curtains open, dressed in real clothes. Mom, you look better. Margaret smiled and it reached her eyes. I feel better, like I'm coming back to myself. She showed Sarah the journal with steadily declining numbers. Sarah's eyes filled with tears. That weekend, Margaret walked to the end of the block and back. No dizziness, no stopping. Mrs. Chen waved and Margaret felt pride instead of shame. She called Linda. I'd like to come to the next book club meeting. By day 10, she called Dr. Harrison with her detailed journal. He studied the numbers. This is remarkable. What changed? She told him about the bananas and cinnamon, Michael's research. I'm familiar with the Osaka study, Dr. Harrison said. The research is sound. Let's start tapering your medications gradually while you continue monitoring. They created a schedule reducing doses slowly, watching her readings. Day 14, 138/88, normal range in 2 weeks. Sarah found her mother in the backyard, actually working in the garden. Just light work, but work. Dr. Harrison says light activity is fine now. Margaret grinned. Light activity, Sarah. Together they planned spring planting, tomatoes, herbs, sunflowers. Week 3 brought stability. Margaret returned to book club, volunteered at the library 1 day a week. She called Michael with updates, her numbers, activities, returning energy. By week 4, Dr. Harrison reduced medications again. Quarter of original doses. Pressure remained stable. Week 5, 135/85. Dr. Harrison reviewed her journal. Let's try stopping medications entirely, but monitor twice daily and call if anything spikes above 145/90. 1 month and 3 days after Michael's visit, Margaret knelt in her garden wearing gloves, dirt under her fingernails. Emma placed tomato seedlings beside her. Like this, Grandma? Perfect, sweetheart. Sarah watched from the kitchen window, happy tears streaming. Her mother was transformed color in her cheeks, energy in movements, life in her eyes. Margaret planted the last tomato. Her monitor on the patio table read 135/85. Stable, normal, healthy. Grandma, why are you smiling? Because I'm happy, sweetheart. Really, truly happy. That evening, Margaret sat on her porch watching sunset, journal beside her. Pages filled with declining numbers told her recovery story. It wasn't magic. It was science combined with consistency and hope. But it felt like magic because it gave her back her life. 2 months later, Michael returned to find windows open, music playing, and his mother in the backyard surrounded by flowering plants. She stood from a rose bush, walked to him with steady steps and hugged him tight. Not fragile anymore, solid, present, real. Look at my life, she said, showing her wrist no monitor needed. 135/85 this morning. No medications, just one banana with cinnamon every day at 6 a.m. Michael's eyes filled with tears. I'm so proud of you. Thank you for not giving up when I'd given up on myself, for showing me hope when I had none left. They walked through the garden. Margaret shared plans for summer vegetables, her rebooked California trip, life stretching ahead instead of closing in. Sometimes the best medicine isn't in a prescription bottle, Margaret said. Sometimes it's understanding what our bodies need and giving them simple tools to heal themselves. She picked rosemary, crushing it to release the scent. I'm not against medications, they have their place, but I needed balance. I needed to remember my body responds to nutrition, consistency, care. And you found that balance, Michael said. I did. One banana at a time. She laughed. Who would have thought? All those expensive medications, all that suffering, and what I needed cost 50 cents at any grocery store. As sunset faded, they sat together on the porch. Margaret talked about book club, Emma's school play, small ordinary moments that felt precious because she was present for them. Thank you for reminding me that hope can be as simple as a banana for breakfast, she said. Michael squeezed her hand. Thank you for being brave enough to try. Margaret thought about all the mornings ahead, each beginning the same way. 6 a.m., one banana, half teaspoon cinnamon, 30 minutes waiting while watching sunrise. Such a small thing, such a simple routine. But it had saved her life not by keeping her heart beating, but by giving her a reason to want it to. Life had given her a second chance, and she was grabbing it with both hands, dirt under her fingernails and hope in her heart.